I remember the day it all started, that nagging feeling in the pit of my stomach. It was a Thursday afternoon, and the sun streamed through our kitchen window, casting a warm glow over the breakfast table. My wife, Laura, was busy packing her tennis bag, her movements brisk and purposeful. I watched her with a sense of admiration. She was always so dedicated to her hobbies. But there was something about that day that felt off, like a note played slightly out of tune. Laura had taken up tennis a few months earlier, and at first I was thrilled for her. It was a way for her to unwind after a long week, a chance to connect with friends and get some exercise. But as the weeks wore on, I noticed the changes. She was spending more time at the courts, often leaving me to fend for myself on weekends. I tried to be supportive, telling myself that it was just a phase, that she needed this time for herself. But the more she immersed herself in the sport, the more I felt like an outsider in my own home. I started to notice the little things, the way she would smile at her phone, the late-night texts she would receive that seemed to spark a light in her eyes I hadn't seen in a while. I brushed it off as paranoia, telling myself I was being ridiculous, but doubt crept in like a thief in the night, stealing away my peace of mind. "Are you sure you want to go again today?" I asked one evening as she prepared to leave for another lesson. "You've been practicing a lot lately." She turned to me, a hint of annoyance flashing across her face. "I need to improve, James. You know that? Besides, it's just tennis." "Right, just tennis," I muttered, trying to mask the unease in my voice. I forced a smile, but it felt brittle, like glass ready to shatter. As she left, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to her tennis lessons than she was letting on. The way she spoke about her coach, Mark, felt different. There was an enthusiasm in her tone that made my heart sink. I had met him a couple of times at the courts, a tall, athletic man with an easy smile and an air of confidence that seemed to draw everyone in. I could see why Laura was captivated. Days turned into weeks, and my suspicions grew alongside my insecurities. I started to keep track of her lessons, counting the hours she spent away from home. I tried to fill the void with work, burying myself in projects and late nights at the office, but the gnawing feeling wouldn't fade. I felt like a ghost in my own life, haunted by the thought that the woman I loved was slipping away. One Friday night, I decided to surprise her. I would show up at the tennis court just to watch her play and maybe even join her for a casual match afterward. I told myself it would be a fun way to reconnect, to remind her that I was still here, still invested in her passions. As I drove to the courts, my heart raced with a mix of excitement and dread. What would I find? Would she be happy to see me, or would she be embarrassed? The sun was setting, casting a golden hue over the courts as I parked my car. I stepped out, the gravel crunching underfoot, and made my way toward the sound of laughter and the rhythmic thwack of tennis balls being hit back and forth. When I reached the court, I stopped dead in my tracks. There she was, laughing, genuinely laughing with Mark. They were practicing together, their bodies moving in sync as they played. My heart sank as I watched them, and I felt the world around me blur. The way she looked at him, her eyes sparkling with joy, was a stark contrast to the woman who had shared quiet dinners and movie nights with me. I stood there for what felt like an eternity, frozen by disbelief. Part of me wanted to turn and walk away, to pretend I hadn't seen anything, but another part of me, a more primal part, wanted to scream, to confront them both right there on the court. I felt the rage bubbling up inside me, a mix of betrayal and confusion. How could she do this to me? How could she betray the life we built together? As I turned to leave, the weight of the truth crashed down on me. The laughter that had once brought me joy now felt like a dagger, twisting deeper into my heart. I had to confront her. I had to know. My mind raced as I drove home, grappling with the reality of what I had just witnessed. I couldn't shake the image of them together, the way she smiled at him, the ease with which they moved together. I felt sick, and I knew that things would never be the same again. The drive home felt like an eternity. My pulse hammered in my ears, drowning out the sound of the tires on the asphalt. I could barely see the road ahead, my vision blurred by anger and betrayal. I gripped the steering wheel tightly, knuckles white and trembling. My thoughts churned like a storm, each one more chaotic than the last. I felt as if I was teetering on the edge of a cliff, ready to plunge into an abyss of despair. When I finally pulled into the driveway, I sat in the car for a moment, staring blankly at the front door. My mind raced through a million scenarios. What would I say when she walked in? Would I confront her right away, or would I wait for the right moment? Part of me wanted to burst through the door and demand answers, while another part of me was terrified of what those answers might be. I stepped inside, the familiar scent of home hitting me like a wave. The silence was deafening. I could hear the ticking of the clock in the hallway, each tick a reminder of the time slipping away. I glanced at my phone, hoping to distract myself, but there were no messages from Laura. She was still at the court, likely laughing and enjoying herself while I sat here, grappling with the truth. Minutes turned into hours. I paced the living room, my mind racing with the images of her and Mark. I tried to convince myself that I was overreacting, that maybe it was just a harmless friendship. But deep down, I knew better. The look in her eyes when she saw him, the way she seemed to light up, those were not the reactions of a woman who was merely practicing a sport. Finally, the door swung open and Laura walked in, her cheeks flushed and her hair slightly disheveled from the wind. She looked radiant, and for a split second I felt a flicker of the love I had for her. But that flicker was quickly snuffed out by the fire of betrayal that burned in my chest. "Hey babe," she called out, her voice cheerful. "You won't believe the progress I made today." I crossed my arms, my heart racing as I tried to find the words. "Laura, we need to talk." Her smile faltered and I could see the confusion in her eyes. "What's wrong?" "Don't play dumb with me, Laura. I saw you with Mark at the courts today." My voice was steady, but inside I was a mess. Her expression shifted and I could see the realization wash over her face. "James, it's not what you think." "Not what I think," I echoed, my voice rising. "I saw you laughing with him, having the time of your life. How can you say that?" "It was just practice. We were working on my serve, that's all," she insisted, her voice rising defensively. "Just practice," I scoffed, my anger boiling over. "You were practically glowing. What did you expect me to think?" She took a step toward me, her hands raised in a placating gesture. "Please, let me explain. It's not like that." "I promise." "Explain what? That you're cheating on me with your tennis coach." The words felt like venom on my tongue, but I couldn't hold back. The betrayal stung like a physical blow. "I'm not cheating on you," she shouted, her voice breaking. "I love you, James. This is just complicated." "Complicated?" I laughed bitterly, feeling my heart shatter. "How is this complicated? You're spending all your time with him and I'm left here in the dark wondering what's going on." "I didn't mean for it to happen this way. It just got out of hand," she admitted, tears welling in her eyes. "I thought I could handle it, but I was wrong." "Handle what exactly?" I demanded, my voice filled with disbelief. "What do you mean, handle it? You think I'm just going to sit here and let you play games with my heart?" "I didn't want to hurt you, James. I never wanted this," she cried, her voice trembling. "I was just trying to improve my game and Mark was helping me. It didn't mean anything at first, but then, I don't know. I got caught up in it, caught up in it." The words echoed in my mind and I felt a fresh wave of anger wash over me. Caught up in what? The thrill of an affair, the excitement of sneaking around behind my back. "I wasn't sneaking around, I thought it was harmless," she protested, her voice rising with desperation. "Harmless?" I spat, disbelief coloring my tone. "You think lying to me is harmless? You think breaking my trust is harmless?" "I'm so sorry," she whispered, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I never meant to hurt you. I love you, James. Please believe me." But how could I believe her? The trust that had taken years to build felt like it was crumbling before my eyes. I was left standing there, shattered by the revelation. I couldn't look at her. I didn't want to see the tears that glistened in her eyes. I felt like a fool, and the anger that had bubbled beneath the surface morphed into a deep, aching sadness. "I need some time," I finally said, my voice low and defeated. I turned away from her, the weight of betrayal heavy on my shoulders. I could feel her eyes on me, pleading, but I couldn't bear to face her any longer. As I walked away, I felt the world around me fade. This was no longer the life I had known. I was trapped in a nightmare of my own making, and I didn't know how to wake up. The next few days felt like a fog. I moved through our home like a ghost, haunted by the image of Laura and Mark laughing together on the court. Every corner of the house reminded me of the betrayal, each room echoing with memories of happier times. I wanted to scream, to lash out, but instead, I buried my emotions deep within, trying to process the whirlwind of anger and heartbreak. Laura tried to reach out to talk and explain, but I rebuffed her attempts. I needed space to think, to gather my thoughts. Each time she approached me, her eyes filled with remorse. I felt a mix of anger and pity. I loved her, but I couldn't shake the feeling of being utterly deceived. Our life together was now marred by lies, and I didn't know how to move forward. One evening, I decided I couldn't live in this limbo any longer. I needed answers, and I knew where to find them. I made my way to the tennis courts, a place that had once brought joy to our lives but now felt tainted. I wanted to confront Mark, the man who had so easily slipped into my wife's heart, and find out what he had to say for himself. As I arrived, the sun was setting, casting long shadows over the courts. I spotted Mark practicing alone, hitting balls against the back wall, his movements fluid and confident. The sight of him sent a surge of anger through me. I could feel my fists clenching at my sides as I approached, determined to confront him. "Mark," I called out, my voice sharp and demanding. He turned, surprise etched across his face. "James, what are you doing here?" he asked, his casual demeanor instantly shifting to one of caution. "We need to talk," I said, my voice low but firm. "About what?" he asked, feigning ignorance. "Cut the crap, Mark. I know about you and Laura." The words hung in the air, heavy with accusation. His expression hardened, and for a moment I saw a flicker of something, guilt, perhaps, before he masked it with a smirk. "Look, James, it's not what you think." "Not what I think," I echoed, incredulous. "I watched you two together. You think I'm just going to stand by and let you play games with my marriage?" "James, we were just working on her game. It was never meant to be anything more than that," he said, his tone dismissive. "Just working on her game." I spat, my anger boiling over. "You think I'm that naive?" "I saw the way she looked at you. You think you can just waltz in and take my wife away from me?" "I didn't take her away from you," he shot back, his voice rising. "She chose to spend time with me. You need to understand that." "Chose?" I laughed bitterly. "You think this was a choice? You manipulated her, Mark. You preyed on her vulnerabilities, and now look where we are." He stepped closer, his expression turning serious. "You don't know the whole story, James. Laura was unhappy. She was looking for something you weren't giving her." "Unhappy?" I felt a mix of confusion and anger. "What do you know about our relationship? You've been in it for what, a few weeks? You don't know anything." "But I do know that she was searching for something more, and I was there to help her find it," he said, a smug grin creeping onto his face. The sight of that grin made my blood boil. "You think this is a game, don't you? You think you've won something here?" I stepped closer, my fists clenched at my sides. "You've taken away everything I cared about." "James, you need to calm down," he said, raising his hands defensively. "This isn't going to solve anything." "Calm down," I shouted, my voice echoing across the empty courts. "You think I can just calm down after what you've done? You've shattered my trust." "I didn't mean for it to go this far," he admitted, his tone shifting slightly. "But Laura and I, there's a connection there. You have to see that." "Connection?" I repeated, my voice dripping with disdain. "You mean the kind of connection that happens behind my back?" He sighed, frustration painting his features. "Look, I didn't want this to happen, but it did. You need to talk to Laura, not me. This isn't just about us anymore." "Us? You mean you and her?" I felt a surge of rage. "You don't get to talk about us when you've betrayed my trust." I took a step back, feeling the weight of the confrontation settle over me. I wasn't going to get any answers here. Mark was just a coward hiding behind the facade of charm and confidence. I realized this wasn't just about him. It was about Laura and the choices she had made. I had to confront her again, but this time it would be different. I turned to leave, my heart pounding in my chest. "You may have had your fun, but this isn't over," I said over my shoulder. "I'm going to find a way to make this right." As I walked away, I felt a mixture of anger and determination. I would confront Laura again, and this time I wouldn't back down. I needed to know the truth, and I was ready to fight for my marriage or, if necessary, for my own peace of mind. The days that followed were a blur of emotions, each one more intense than the last. I spent countless hours lost in thought, replaying the events of the last week over and over in my mind. The image of Laura and Mark's laughter haunted me, a constant reminder of the betrayal that had shattered my world. I felt like a puppet with its strings cut, aimlessly wandering through life without direction. I found myself sitting on the couch one evening, staring blankly at the television, but I wasn't really watching. Instead, I was lost in memories, memories of Laura and me before all of this. I could still recall the first time we met at that coffee shop, how her laughter had filled the air and drawn me in like a moth to a flame. We had shared dreams and aspirations, and for a while everything felt perfect. But as I sat there, I couldn't help but reflect on the cracks that had formed over the years. Life had a way of chipping away at the edges of our happiness. Work had consumed my time, and I had taken Laura for granted. I had been so focused on providing and climbing the corporate ladder that I neglected the emotional connection we once shared. I thought she understood, that she was okay with the sacrifices I made for our future. But now, it was clear that she had been feeling neglected, alone in her own way. I remembered the nights when I would come home late, too exhausted to engage in conversation. I recalled the moments when I would brush off her attempts to connect, thinking she would always be there when I was ready. But I had failed to see the signs, the subtle hints that she was searching for something more, something I had stopped providing. I felt a wave of guilt wash over me. Had I pushed her into the arms of another man? Had my ambition cost me the love of my life? I wanted to believe that she was solely to blame for her infidelity, but deep down, I knew I had played a part in it. I had allowed the distance to grow between us, and now I was left with the aftermath of that neglect. But even as I reflected, a part of me felt a flicker of anger. I couldn't excuse her actions, no matter how much I examined our relationship. Cheating was a choice, one that she had made, and it felt like a betrayal of everything we had built together. I had trusted her, and she had shattered that trust in an instant. I picked up my phone, scrolling through our shared photos, each one a reminder of happier times. I saw us at the beach, laughing as the waves crashed around us. I saw us at family gatherings, surrounded by friends and loved ones, our smiles genuine and carefree. I wanted to hold onto those memories, but they felt tainted now, overshadowed by the reality of her betrayal. As the evening wore on, I felt a resolve building within me. I couldn't let this define me. I couldn't allow her actions to dictate my happiness. I needed to confront Laura again, not just about the affair, but about us, about what we had become and what we could salvage from the wreckage. I needed to know if we could rebuild or if it was time to let go. The next day, I found myself packing the living room, waiting for her to come home. My heart raced as I prepared for the conversation that would determine the course of our future. I wanted to be calm and collected, but the anger and hurt simmered just beneath the surface. When Laura finally walked through the door, I could see the weariness etched on her face. She looked like she hadn't slept in days, and a part of me felt sympathy. But I quickly pushed that feeling aside. This was about us, and I needed to be strong. James, she said softly, her eyes searching mine for a sign of what was to come. Can we talk? Yes, we need to talk, I replied, my voice steady. I want to understand what happened, and I need you to be honest with me. She nodded, her expression shifting from uncertainty to determination. I will be, I promise. We sat down at the kitchen table, the air thick with tension. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest as I prepared to lay everything out on the table. I want to know why, Laura. Why did you choose to betray me? It wasn't a choice I made lightly, she began, her voice trembling. I felt so alone, James. I felt like I was fighting for your attention, and when you were so distant, I didn't know how to reach you. Mark was there, and he listened. I got caught up in it, and before I knew it, it spiraled out of control. Caught up in it, I echoed, feeling the anger bubble up again. You think that's an excuse? You think that gives you a free pass to cheat on me? No, I don't, she exclaimed, tears brimming in her eyes. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you, and I'm so sorry, but I need you to understand that I was struggling too. I didn't know how to reach out to you anymore. I took a deep breath, trying to process her words. But why didn't you talk to me? Why didn't you come to me when you felt this way? I thought I could handle it on my own, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. I thought I could fix things without burdening you. I was wrong, and I see that now. As she spoke, I felt a mix of emotions, anger, sadness, frustration, and a glimmer of understanding. We were both at fault in our own ways, and it was clear that we had lost sight of each other amid the chaos of life. but could we find our way back? Laura, I said, my voice softer now, I want to rebuild our relationship, but it's going to take time. Trust needs to be earned back, and that's not going to happen overnight. I understand, she replied, her voice steady. I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I love you, James, and I want to make this work. I looked into her eyes, searching for sincerity. I wanted to believe her, but the scars of betrayal ran deep. It would take time to heal, to rebuild what had been lost. But for the first time in days, I felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps this was the beginning of something new, a chance to confront our demons together and emerge stronger. The days turned into weeks, and the road to healing was anything but smooth. Laura and I embarked on a journey that was fraught with emotional turbulence. We had decided to attend couples therapy, a suggestion from a friend that I had initially resisted. I was hesitant to air our dirty laundry to a stranger, but I knew we needed guidance to navigate the complex web of emotions that had formed between us. In therapy, we were forced to confront not just the affair, but the underlying issues that had contributed to it. The sessions were intense and often painful. Laura would cry as she recounted her feelings of isolation, and I would feel the anger rise within me as I recounted the nights I had spent working late, oblivious to her struggles. Each session peeled back layers of resentment and hurt, exposing raw wounds that we had both been too afraid to acknowledge. One evening, after a particularly difficult session, I found myself sitting on the back porch, staring into the darkness. The stars twinkled above, but I felt anything but hopeful. I had thought that confronting the issues would bring clarity, but instead it felt like we were digging deeper into a pit of despair. I heard the door creak open and Laura stepped outside, her expression tentative. "Hey," she said softly, taking a seat beside me. "Are you okay?" I sighed, running a hand through my hair. "I don't know, Laura. I thought we were making progress, but it feels like we're just going in circles." "I know it's hard," she replied, her voice trembling slightly. "But I think we're finally starting to get to the root of things. It's just going to take time." "Time," I echoed, the word heavy on my tongue. "How much time? How long until we can trust each other again? I feel like I'm still waiting for the other shoe to drop." "I don't want you to feel that way," she said, reaching for my hand. "I want to rebuild that trust. I want to be the partner you deserve." I pulled my hand away, not ready for that kind of intimacy yet. "It's not that simple, Laura. Trust isn't something that can just be rebuilt with words. It's going to take actions, consistent actions." "I know," she said, tears brimming in her eyes. "I'm committed to doing whatever it takes. I'll prove to you that I can be the wife you need." As I looked at her, I felt a mix of resentment and longing. I wanted to believe her, but the shadows of betrayal still loomed large. Every time she left the house, I felt a knot of anxiety tightening in my stomach. I couldn't shake the fear that she might slip back into old habits or that Mark would reappear, stirring up feelings I was still grappling with. Gradually, I started to make changes in my own life. I cut back on work hours and made a conscious effort to prioritize our relationship. I began to plan small date nights, trying to reignite the spark that had once brought us together. At first, it felt forced, like we were acting out a script instead of genuinely enjoying each other's company. But slowly, I began to see glimpses of the woman I had fallen in love with, the laughter, the warmth, the shared dreams. But even as we tried to reconnect, the shadows of the past lingered. I would catch myself replaying moments from our therapy sessions, feeling the weight of her betrayal pressing down on me. I struggled to let go of the hurt, to forgive her fully. It was a battle I fought daily, oscillating between wanting to move forward and being anchored by the pain of the past. One night, after a particularly lovely dinner together, I found myself staring at her across the table, lost in thought. Laura was animatedly recounting a story about her day, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. I wanted to engage, to feel that connection again, but the memories of her infidelity crept in, clouding my mind. "James," she asked, her voice cutting through my thoughts, "are you even listening?" "Yeah, I'm here," I replied, forcing a smile, "just thinking about everything." "About us?" She probed, her expression shifting from joy to concern. I nodded, feeling the weight of my emotions. "It's hard, Laura. I'm trying to move forward, but sometimes I feel like I'm stuck." "I get it," she said, her voice softening. I'm sorry for what I did. I never wanted to hurt you. I just wish I could take it back. Wishing doesn't change anything, I said, the bitterness creeping into my voice. I need to see real change, not just hear apologies. I promise I'm trying, she said, her voice trembling. I'm committed to us. I'll prove it to you. As the weeks turned into months, I began to see small changes in her. She was more present, more engaged, and I could feel the effort she was putting into our relationship. But I still struggled with the fear that it could all come crashing down again. I found myself checking her phone for messages, a habit I knew was unhealthy but couldn't shake. I felt like I was walking on eggshells, afraid to upset the delicate balance we were trying to restore. Then one evening I received a text from a number I didn't recognize. My heart raced as I opened it, only to find a message from Mark. "Hey James, I think we need to talk." Panic surged through me. What could he possibly want? I debated whether to respond, my mind racing with possibilities. Was he trying to stir up trouble again? Did he want to confront me about Laura? I felt the familiar anger bubbling up inside me, and I knew I had to be the one to put an end to this once and for all. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was to come. I could let Mark dictate the terms of my life any longer. I was ready to face him, but this time it would be on my terms. The moment I hit reply to Mark's text, a wave of adrenaline surged through me. My fingers hovered over the screen as I crafted my response. "What do you want, Mark? This isn't a conversation I'm interested in having." I hit send, and the seconds felt like hours as I waited for his response. I could feel my heart racing, the anxiety mixing with a sense of resolve. I was done being a victim in my own life. Whatever he had to say, I would face it head-on. To my surprise, he replied almost immediately. "We need to clear the air. This isn't just about Laura anymore, it's about respect." I took a deep breath, feeling a mix of anger and determination. Respect. He had lost any right to speak about respect the moment he decided to pursue my wife. I typed back, "Meet me at the courts tonight. We'll talk." The sun was setting as I pulled into the parking lot of the tennis courts, casting a golden glow over the familiar scene that had become so tainted. I stepped out of my car, my heart pounding, but this time it was different. I was no longer the man who had stood there helplessly watching Laura and Mark. I was ready to reclaim my life. Mark arrived a few minutes later, his confident demeanor in full force. He approached me with a casual swagger, but I could see the tension in his eyes. "James," he said, nodding in acknowledgement. "Let's cut to the chase," I said, my voice steady. "What do you want?" "I want to make sure you understand that I never meant to come between you and Laura," he began, but I cut him off. "Save it. You may not have intended to, but you did. You crossed a line, and I need you to understand that this is over. Whatever you had with her, it's done." He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I get that you're angry, but you need to know that Laura and you what? Had a fling. That's all it was, Mark. You took advantage of a vulnerable moment, and I won't let you do again." "James, I'm not trying to stir anything up," he said, his tone shifting slightly. "I just think it's important for you to know that she was unhappy. I didn't force her to do anything." "I don't care," I shouted, the anger boiling over. "You should have respected our marriage. You should have walked away instead of pursuing her." He stepped back slightly, his expression shifting from defiance to something resembling regret. I didn't realize how deep the damage was until it was too late. "But I promise you I'm done. I don't want to interfere anymore." "Good," I said, my voice low but firm. "I don't want you anywhere near her again. If you care at all about her, you'll respect that." "I'll back off," he confirmed, looking me in the eye. "But you need to understand that she's going to need time to heal too. This won't just go away overnight." I nodded, feeling a mix of relief and apprehension. "I know, we're working on it, but it will be on our terms, not yours." With that, I turned to leave, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. I had confronted Mark, had taken a stand for my marriage, and while the road ahead still felt uncertain, I felt a renewed sense of strength. When I returned home, Laura was waiting for me, her expression anxious. "How did it go?" she asked, stepping closer. "It's over. I told him to back off," I said, my voice steady. "But it's going to take time, Laura. We have a long way to go." "I understand," she said, her eyes filled with tears. "I'm so grateful for you. I know I messed up, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make it right." I took her hands in mine, feeling the warmth of her touch. We both have to work on this. It's not just about rebuilding trust, it's about reconnecting and finding our way back to each other. She nodded, her expression earnest. I want that too. I'm committed to us, James. I love you. I love you too, I replied, feeling a flicker of hope. But we need to take it one step at a time. I want to rebuild our relationship, but we have to be patient with each other. As we sat down together on the couch, I felt a sense of calm wash over me. The journey ahead would be challenging, but for the first time in a long while, I felt a glimmer of optimism. We had faced the storm, and while the scars of betrayal would take time to heal, I believed that with honesty, communication, and a willingness to fight for each other, we could emerge stronger. The road to recovery wouldn't be easy, but I was ready to walk it with Laura. Together, we would learn to trust again, to love again, and to rebuild the life we had almost lost. And as the stars twinkled overhead, I felt a sense of peace settle in my heart. We would find our way back to each other, one step at a time.